All right, welcome everybody. We are at the pre-conference meeting to the Vibrational Astrology Conference of 2020. So, welcome. I'm going to be turning you over to David here in just a minute, and he's going to be presenting an introduction to vibrational astrology, which is a very exciting and constantly expanding and developing new style of astrology. So this is going to be, for some of you at this introduction, to be looking at this new way. And David has, the founder of this, has a very exciting way of presenting it. And it just goes into the depth and can just nail so many things in a person's chart and really just getting into the dynamic of their energies. So without any further ado, take it away, David.
Okay, thank you, Chris. Thank you, everyone, for being here during this global crisis. Um, we're all doing our best, struggling along here. We are recording this session, so it will all be available afterwards. Are you guys ready? Our goal here in 3 hours is to get you to feel comfortable with the language of vibrational astrology. Regardless of whether you have exposure to it or you're a professional, after 3 hours, you should feel comfortable with what vibrational astrology is. That's my goal. I'm going to take only a 5 minute break after 1 hour and then another 5 minute break after a second hour. Go ahead and type in your comments, your questions. Christopher's going to monitor all that, and I'll have time to respond to at least some of them. Are you ready? Somebody type in yes, because we're going to start this. We're going to start the music up here. All right. Here it goes, my friends. Vibrational astrology in 3 hours. You are going to understand this. Now, first thing I want to tell you about vibrational astrology is it is a different language. So VA is different, period. All right. So why do we have this new language? What's wrong with David? We already have enough languages. We have Vedic astrology. We have all kinds of Hellenistic, variations of medieval, a zillion variations of modern psychological. All these systems, and then this maniac comes along and is going to give me another one? It doesn't feel like we need it, but we do need it. And the first point I want to make, so that this is clear, is that this is a different language from the ground up. So people who have a lot of experience as astrologers sometimes have more difficulty than the beginners because you have to rethink what astrology is and how it functions. So that's the first thing I want to emphasize, is that this is a different kind of language. Now let me give you some ideas on how the language is different and why we created yet another language of astrology. Like any new invention, it's built upon previous discoveries. There's very little in vibrational astrology that's completely original, but it takes its ideas from so many different areas, including areas like physics that are not usually part of astrology, and integrates them in completely new ways. It integrates ideas from Taoist philosophy and the I Ching and integrates it in as fundamental. So it's pulled from a lot of different sources to make a new system. So let me give you some background ideas on how vibrational astrology works and how it's different and why we need it. Here's my birth chart. Okay. I was born May 1, 1949, 4:26 a.m. in East Meadow, New York. There's my birth chart. As a Western astrologer, if you are a Western astrologer, you can look at my chart using the usual ideas and come up with some interpretations. In my particular case, the people that misunderstand me the most and have the least understanding of what I'm about are astrologers, because my chart makes no sense to most methods of astrology. And I can tell you several anecdotal stories. For example, one fantastic world famous astrologer was at my house, and my two sisters were there. And he said, David, let me pull up your chart. So he pulled up my chart on his laptop computer, and he started saying things like, oh, no wonder you're so much into business and you make a lot of money and you have a beautiful house and a beautiful wife and you're so grounded in the material world, because he saw all of this emphasis on Taurus, ruler of the ascendant, is Mars in Taurus, and he was going on and on and on about this, right? Now, my two sisters, one of them started getting the giggles because they have known me from birth. There are 7 kids in the family. I'm the third of 7. Uh, one of the sisters is 2 years older. The other one's 2 years younger. They have known me, from the beginning. They know that of the 7 kids, I am the only one who is very poorly connected to the material world, and I've had almost no interest in anything material from birth, other than books and then later on computers. Um, all of the other 6 children are fairly normal. They've always liked a nice car. They've been pretty much part of the real world. And I was always an abstract philosopher, poet, visionary, intellectual, with little interest or desire or concern about anything. My biggest concern in high school is what happens when you die. And I would periodically go up to people and say, they would say hi, and I'd say, hi, so what do you think happens when you die? Um, so I was eccentric, um, oddball, never very much interested in all of these kinds of things. How is that possible? Does it make sense? Some of you having some problem with sound. Is everybody else okay with sound, I hope? Okay. Some of you saying I'm breaking up. Okay. So everybody else is okay? Okay. Crackling, but it is okay. Okay. Well, we're going to have to just push our way through this. This is very unfortunate. I use this system all the time and never have problems. I don't know. Okay, we'll just continue. I'll talk a little bit slow and kind of loud. Okay, so that's one example. Now, what's also interesting in my case is that of probably almost all astrologers, I'm one of the most pragmatic, so, and down to earth, evidence-based astrologers. So of 7 children, I am the least in the material world by far. By the way, as the astrologer kept talking, my 2 sisters started laughing so hard that they started having tears come out of their eyes. One of them said, please stop, my stomach is hurting. It was so hilarious to hear me described in a way that was completely opposite. But interestingly, my astrology is extremely down to earth, evidence based, pragmatic. Now, other examples of relationships to things, depending on what house system you use and so on, is that when I was in 8th grade, the social studies teacher said that the free enterprise system is driven by the profit motive. This made me physically ill and was extremely depressing, that people could actually live with that way of thinking. It was sickening and made me wonder if it was worth staying on planet Earth. There didn't seem to be much point in it. So these are some of the reasons why I've continued to search and search and search to see if we can find consistent rules that work. And I'm not an exception to the rule. You can take any number of people like Jean Piaget, the child psychologist. He comes in our database as the most extreme Leo of many, many thousands of people. Sun and Moon in Leo, ruler of the ascendant is Mercury in Leo, Venus, Jupiter are in Leo, and we can find nothing in his biography that we think of as Leo. So I can give example after example after example. The most humble person, one of the most humble people I have ever met in my life, um, was born with Leo rising, Venus-Pluto conjunction within 1 degree in Leo in the first house, and Sun and Jupiter in Leo in the first house. How do we explain these things? What is going on? And can we develop a system of astrology where there are not so many multivalent archetypal possibilities that we have to keep guessing to find out what's going on? So let me introduce you to some of the fundamental concepts of vibrational astrology and how they resolve these problems of having to guess and sometimes guessing wildly incorrectly as to what is going on with the person. Does everything I say make sense so far? You all following me? If you find that your astrology works so beautifully consistently, and the Scorpios are intense and magnetic and sexy, and the Capricorns are detached, I look at Elvis Presley, who when I was growing up was the cutest, sexiest guy around, and he has Sun, Mercury, and Venus in Capricorn. Of course, we're going to say, look at the whole chart, look at the whole chart, look at the whole chart. I have spent my entire adult life trying to figure out what astrology is. What is the Capricorn in Elvis Presley? And can we perceive what's going on before we learn about the person? Can I really look at the chart and understand what Capricorn actually really does? So let me introduce you to some of the fundamental concepts of vibrational astrology. It's a very, very different way of thinking. Okay? All right. So what I've laid out is the reason why we have VA. The reason is to try to come up with rules that will work consistently and where we don't have to guess what might be happening as much. Okay. Okay, so Jonathan downloaded the app and all is good now. Okay, good. Maybe there's some issues there that are getting resolved. Okay, does it make sense so far? I'm not asking if you agree with me or not, but I'm telling you that this is what gave birth to vibrational astrology. It's not born from theory. It's born from interviewing tens of thousands of people in the 1970s and trying to consistently find out, come up with consistent ideas. Okay, here's the first idea I want to introduce you to in vibrational astrology. And again, it's a different way of thinking and might sound a little peculiar. Let's talk about the meanings of the planets from the point of view of vibrational astrology. What does Venus do? We often refer to Venus as a planet of love, harmony, beauty. It's like a young princess. It's an archetypal energy. It's like an archetypal quality in the psyche, this beautiful princess, and then she manifests and expresses herself in our minds according to the sign, house, and aspects. This is one of the most common ideas, right? You all following me? Does it make sense? Okay? This is generally what I think the majority of us do. And so the first thing I want to mention is that we do not interpret the planets that way in VA. Venus is not an archetypal image of youthful beauty or something else. That is not what it's doing. So this is one of many radical differences in the vibrational astrology language. Now, let me explain what Venus does and how it is related to our usual ways of thinking of Venus. In vibrational astrology, we see the astrology as a form of sacred geometry, that there are structures in space and there are vibrations, just like there are sound vibrations and light vibrations and gravity waves and all kinds of things. We live in a vibratory universe, and the astrology works by vibration as well. And each vibration has an intent, it has a goal, it has a purpose. And what each planet does is it channels, you could say, or you could say it regulates a vibration with a purpose. And what Venus does is it regulates our attraction to beauty. So the idea is this: attraction to beauty exists. It's a fact of life. I don't know why it's a fact of life, but we accept it as a given, that that's how God or whatever made life. So when we see something that is symmetrical, that has some kind of combinations of colors and patterns, our eyes open up and we're magnetically drawn to it. Our brains do a lot of computations intuitively to say, oh, it's symmetrical. Oh, it blends together so beautifully. Oh, I love this cathedral. Oh, I love this garden. Oh, I love this house. I love the way it's up on the top of the hill and it just flows so beautifully. Somehow, something in our soul, in our mind, whatever you want to call it, sees something called beauty and is drawn to it. Does everybody follow me? We take it for granted. There is no life without it. That attraction to beauty is Venus. Venus is regulating, you could call it, channeling, expressing the way that we are attracted to beauty. And attraction to beauty is number one, mental. Venus is not a planet of love and romance and emotion. It is first a planet that is mental because you calculate that beauty. And it is also extremely emotional because we are drawn to the beauty. So the process of Venus integrates perception, calculation, and then instantly sends it into our astral body as attraction. Venus is this process of seeing beauty, calculating beauty, and wanting it, being drawn to it. It's like a magnet, a hypnotic magnet. It'll drive us crazy because we want that beauty. And that's all Venus does. Venus does not do anything else. It simply draws us to beauty. And we look at the chart, we look at Elvis Presley and we say, he is drawn to beauty in a Capricorn way. And so why is Venus related to marriage? It is. It's true. It's related to marriage because if you're not attracted to the person, why the heck are you going to marry them? Typically, in a marriage or a romance, you want to get close to the person. You see the person off in the distance and you kind of, meander closer and closer. You want to just get closer and closer. It's there's attraction involved in romance and marriage. Usually, everybody's different. If you don't get married or engage in romance because of magnetic attraction, then marriage for you is not Venusian. So that's what Venus does. Suppose a person is an artist and they do cubist art and they break space up into um, fragments, and it makes you question the nature of things and it makes you question our social order. That artist probably does not have a strong Venus in her chart because the purpose of the art is not to draw you magnetically to the beauty, it's to make you think and question. Does it make sense? This is a radical, different language. It is a radically different way of understanding what astrology is. It is not archetypal. Now, at its basis, at its root. Now, I'm saying this as if these are facts. This is just a theory. This is a model. I'm describing a model. And you might like the model, you might not like the model. But when I say it as a fact, it's not because I believe I know more than anybody else. It's because I want to make it clear what the model is. So before everything I say, I could say, according to the model, according to the model. It'll get very boring and you'll get tired of hearing me saying it. So I won't say it and I'll just say it as if it's a fact. But it's all a model. This is the model for how astrology works according to VA. And it is radically different and it changes your interpretation. It's not just theoretical. When I look at Elvis Presley's chart, my interpretation is going to be different from other interpretations. And the advice I give the client will be different. So it's a new way of thinking about astrology. Now, what happens? Let me fill in one more piece of this puzzle. Is that as these primal forces, the force of attraction to beauty, as we live with our birth charts and we have our life experiences and we develop our way of finding beauty, of bringing it into our lives, of deciding what kinds of music are beautiful to us, what kinds of architecture, what kind of everything. We develop our taste, our attunement to what is beautiful. Then the archetypal stories begin. So archetypal stories are extremely important. They run the world. The whole world is running on Jungian archetypal stories. So for example, it really does not matter that much whether Jesus lived and what he did, because the primary power of Jesus is that he is a myth. He is an eternal story in our souls of being perfected, of being purified, of being directly connected to divinity, and all of the different stories and parables of Jesus or Santa Claus, the jolly Santa Claus who was invented by American marketers in the 20th century, is also a Jupiterian archetypal image. And these archetypal images run our lives. So Jung is correct. He's more correct than we even completely acknowledge. And a lot of us have resistance to anything Christian, just to talk about Jesus and these biblical stories, because of all the horror, all of the suffering, all of the insanity that has been born out of that. Why? Because those myths, those stories are driving our lives. And when we take them literally and we project them as external facts, rather than the external facts breathing life into the myth and people being channels and expression for the myth, we go to war, we kill, we do insane things because our myths are what drive our lives. So in vibrational astrology, we are Jungian. We do believe that Jung is correct, but the astrology operates fundamentally as vibration and purpose and intent, and then those purposes and intentions develop in our lives into the archetypal thinking in us, in our consciousness. Now, some of this may sound very abstract and philosophical, but it's very, very practical. Vibrational astrology is very Taoist. It's about the flow of life. It's about how things are moving and changing and adapting. And that is the fundamental infrastructure upon which everything else is built. Okay, so when you're attending a lecture by a vibrational astrologer, and this astrologer says, oh, your Venus is here, so you're being drawn to beauty in this way, that's why. Because the fundamental meaning of the planets is always true. You don't have to guess, because that's what the planet actually does. Does it make sense so far? I know this is a little abstract and philosophical, but it's also fundamental and important. And very soon I will get into the nuts and bolts of chart interpretation with VA. But it's important to understand this because in VA we have a completely different way of thinking. Okay? All right. Okay. Now, let me give one example of a zodiac sign and how we interpret zodiac signs in vibrational astrology. So vibrational astrology is not just harmonics. Some people think, oh, it's a fancy word for harmonics. No. Vibrational astrology uses harmonics, it uses midpoints, it uses lots of ideas from Dane Rudhyar, Noel Till, lots of different people, Vedic astrology, and it's integrated it in a new way. Okay, are you ready for me to give you a meaning for Venus in Capricorn so we can understand what's going on with vibrational astrology? Yes, we use houses in VA. We use houses, we use signs, but we interpret them quite differently. Well, maybe, not completely differently. Okay. All right. But let me give you an example of Venus in Capricorn. What is Capricorn? The usual way of thinking of a zodiac sign is, again, it's archetypal. There's something old. There's something dry. There is something mature. something like the mountain goat, austere, climbing the mountain step by step, something practical and businesslike. It's an archetypal sense that somehow Elvis Presley is like this mountain goat, business, mature being with Sun, Mercury, and Venus, and then we'll talk to him and it should become alive. But that is not how we interpret it in VA. I'll show you how we interpret it in a second. But does everybody follow me? Any questions? Are you getting the feeling for how the VA language is different? It'll become clearer as I give some examples. What Capricorn does, according to VA, is Capricorn, like all 12 zodiac signs, regulates a flow of energy. The archetype, as I just explained, is secondary. Astrology does not operate at an archetypal level. Human consciousness operates at an archetypal level. And the astrology is not simply as above, so below. The astrology does its thing in a spiritual world. So in VA, we agree with the superstring theorists and other people that there are higher dimensional realities, and astrology operates from these higher dimensional realities where all there is intention, purpose, and flow. And then in the human consciousness, those stories begin to develop. So what Capricorn does is Capricorn detaches you so that you can watch yourself. So we can imagine that a dog probably is not very self-conscious, maybe a little bit. But if the dog is hungry, the dog is eating. It's not thinking, gee, I wonder if I look pretty while I'm eating, or I wonder if I'm making a mess, or I wonder if the other dog over there of the opposite sex thinks I'm cute right now. The consciousness is engaged, what some of the existential philosophers call pre-reflexively. You're just in it, just like when we watch a movie or we're skiing down a slope. If I'm skiing down a slope, I'm not thinking, gee, I wonder if I look really cool right now, because if I think that too often, I'll probably smash into a tree. You have to be in the flow. What Capricorn does is it takes you out of the flow so that you have witness consciousness. Some people look at witness consciousness or detachment as a sacred doorway to spiritual enlightenment. But all 12 signs are doorways to spiritual enlightenment, and it's just one. So the ability to be aware of yourself while you're engaged, you're simultaneously doing something and watching yourself at the same time. That ability to watch yourself is the gift of Capricorn. That's all that Capricorn does. Everything else is just a symptom and a development of it. In vibrational astrology, each zodiac sign, each planet, each house does one thing. And the interpretation is very simple. And you may wonder, how do you explain the complexity of life if every planet does one thing, if every sign does one thing? It does it the same way it happens in music. All Western music is nothing but 12 notes arranged in octaves. The difference between the sound of a flute and the sound of your voice is just different overtones, different vibrations. They're essentially 12 vibrations that create all of the richness of music. In chemistry, we have the same thing. From simplicity, extraordinary complexity develops, mind-boggling complexity. We do not have to build complexity into the infrastructure of astrology. All of that complexity is born out of these basic functions. Does that make sense? So, this is a different way of thinking. Maybe you'll get excited about this way of thinking, maybe not. But it's good to know about because vibrational astrology is growing by leaps and bounds. It's almost becoming viral. The number of emails that I receive every day from academics around the world is staggering. It has not caught the imagination of astrologers as much as it has caught the imagination of young people under 30 years old and people in various professions. So it's good to know about what this excitement is about. And it's about all of these ideas. And it is a very richly developed system. We understand how Fibonacci numbers and prime numbers create structures in space. We understand the relationship to physics. We have people who are now working with the new physics of Nassim Haramein. All of these things are working together in a new vision. So it's good to know about. Because if you're a teacher, your students will be asking about these things. Okay. All right. All right. So, so what does Venus in Capricorn mean for Elvis Presley? It means that he can see himself as another person. He can put on a costume. He can put on a show. He loves the costume. He loves the way that we can design, that we can select, that we can find that beauty, see it clearly, objectify it, and present it. That's what it means. Elvis Presley, without his sequin costume, without his whole show, without the way he dresses, his clothing is Elvis Presley. The way he embodies that clothing, that it's so perfect, that he puts on a show, a picture, an image of beauty that no one has ever seen before. He's a pretty boy, prettier than any other boy that ever was. And he rocks the people at that time. This is Venus in Capricorn and also Sun and Mercury in Capricorn. The gift to see it, to make it, and to create that costume, that appearance of beauty, and make it so magnetically attractive. Because that is what Venus in Capricorn actually does. It is not dry. It is not old. It is not mature. It does usually become all of those things. Because if you can see yourself objectively, you tend to be more mature. You tend to be more objective. You tend to be less blown by the winds of desire. because you're standing outside looking at it. So the traits of Capricorn that we have usually do happen, but they do not have to happen. The only thing that has to happen is that the person loves their costume. So what we do in astrology is we confuse typical symptoms with the actual energy. Does it make sense? Well, what we've done with vibrational astrology is develop a language that works more consistently. And the same happens with my chart, with all of the Taurus and second house. When we look at what Taurus actually does, when we look at what the second house actually does, that the astrology is a real force, it extremely accurately describes me. But just like Elvis, the common associations are not true. Now, everybody can look at a chart, find the reasons according to whatever's ruling something or any other number of reasons, and we can always have different opinions. I'm just giving examples. I'm illustrating the ideas, not to convince you that VA is correct. I'm not interested in convincing anybody of anything. I'm just interested in having you understand what VA is. Is it getting clear? Do you have a sense of it? It takes a while to change your mind. Because if you look at my chart and you say, oh, no wonder David loves chocolate cake with all that Taurus. Oh, Taurus loves food. Well, actually, I don't eat chocolate cake. It's that one's. Well, anyway, it's all of those things we're saying are possible symptoms that a great many times are not true. There is a fundamental thing that every sign is doing that will always be true for the client. Of course, the client can repress, can project, there can be latent things, but if the client is projecting or denying something, there will be dysfunction. So we have clear expectations in vibrational astrology. Okay. Okay, so Julie's sharing her experience makes sense. You guys getting the feeling for it? In 43 minutes, I have explained to you what vibrational astrology is. It's a language of motion. It's a language of energy process. It's a language where we see the universe as vibrations within a sacred geometry. In vibrational astrology, we have this idea of what is the term I have? I can't think of it now. Crystalline structures. There are crystalline structures in space, like zodiac signs. They are actually structures in space. So in the physics of Nassim Haramein and other physicists, even Einstein had developed this idea, there's something called space. And space exists primarily and first in a spiritual dimension. And the astrology are structures in space, the zodiac signs and houses. And within that structure, there are all of these vibrations. The vibrations are what give us talent. They give us the ability to write music or to be um, anything, a dancer, a sculptor, an astrologer. The actual talent and motivation, and as we shall see, the tendency to have bipolar disorder from Giselle's research. It's in the vibrations, which means aspects. It's in the aspects. The zodiac signs tell us about an attitude, a way of being, a way of understanding life, but they are not strong enough to give us a specific talent, to give us a particular gift or an extreme emotion that could make us mentally and emotionally ill, for example. So in vibrational astrology, we look at the aspects to see if the person is psychic. Pisces will not make you psychic. Our research is very, very convincing. We have no evidence that the eighth house makes you psychic. And I know that this can sound, you can disagree, obviously. Just disagree, go ahead. But in vibrational astrology, we do research, and the research confirms what happens with our clients. The signs will not give something like psychic ability. They may give very, well, very, very slightly. It can open a door a tiny bit, a tiny bit. But it is the aspect patterns that will show you that a person is psychic or disconnected from normal, mundane, intellectual functioning, and their energy is connected in some extremely sensitive realm. Okay, does that make sense? Are you guys following me? So zodiac signs are extremely important. Extremely important. If Elvis didn't have Venus in Capricorn and this other Capricorn, he would not be Elvis. They tell us about how you approach life, how you understand life. Zodiac signs are very important for relationships because most people are more concerned with how their romantic partner approaches life, approaches them, rather than so much concern about whether they have a gift for nursing and medicine or a gift for astrology. Any gift is fine. But if somebody is very introverted and never wants to go out, their attitude is a certain way, then that is important for the relationship. So aspects will also tell you about lifestyle and introversion, extroversion, but they also tell you about the specific talent and energy. Okay. All right. So we have about 10 more minutes before we take a 5-minute break. So let me show you an example of a famous person and how we see how the vibrations affect the person. Let's take this fellow Ram Dass. Do you guys know who Ram Dass is? This is not AA data, but we'll use it anyway. Ram Dass, I think his name was Richard Alpert. So back in the 60s, when people started taking LSD, he was a professor and he started taking LSD and kind of led this psychedelic LSD movement, one of the big leaders. And then he went to India and became, very influenced by Indian philosophy. Anyways, a super duper influential New Age guy. Okay. Right, he died not too long ago. Now, can we see why this professor, who according to him would get on the subway, go to the university, teach the classes, get on the subway, go home, and live the same daily routine until one day he sort of flipped out and couldn't take it anymore and started um, this whole LSD and whatever psychedelic uh, journey. So the way that we see a person's mind and emotions is in the aspects. So if you want to know why he changed his life so dramatically all of a sudden, it will be in the aspects. Because the signs and houses just tell us a style, they tell us a set of priorities. They're, as I say, not strong enough to make you become a leader of this New Age psychedelic movement. Now, one of the very first things we do is we look at midpoint structures. So let's look at the midpoint structures. So when we look at a birth chart, we can look at the zodiac signs and the houses and get an idea. That's very important, especially for personal relationships. If we want to know what vocation a person should go into, or what kinds of extreme mental and emotional problems are likely, we go to the aspects. And one of the first things we look at are midpoint structures. So when I look at a chart, I pull up the midpoint structures. When I use the word aspects, I just mean angular, the distance between planets. Within this astrology chart, there is a complex, beautiful, intricate tapestry of vibrations. And the birth chart is just a superficial look, and it misses all of the incredible detail of the vibrations. So we use these different tools to see the intricate vibrations going on. Okay, so let me show you midpoint structures. It's one of the, when I do an interpretation, I look at the signs very quickly. It's kind of automatic. I get some basic ideas. And then I go to the midpoint structures. So I'm going to go to midpoint, and I'll go to view change settings. And what we do in vibrational astrology is we look at conjunctions and oppositions only with a 1.5 degree orb. I don't need these trees, so I will uncheck that. You can just look at Sun through Pluto for now, because the ascendant and midheaven depend on a perfectly accurate time. And I'm going to leave the node out for now. We can add the node later. We'll just do Sun through Pluto. I'll click on Save this as the default and click OK. And what happened? Something strange just happened. Conjunctions and oppositions. Very strange. Okay, I'm confused. Let's look at Elvis Presley. What am I doing wrong? Conjunctions and oppositions, 1.5 degree orb. Oh, print midpoint trees. Oh, I do need that. Duh. If I remove midpoint trees, I don't get any trees. Okay. Some users are not very smart. Poor Faye, she has to deal with these stupid users all the time. They remove midpoint trees and then they wonder why they're not there. Poor Faye. Okay, they're back. All right. Now, let me show you how this works. we pull up a pop-up wheel. Okay, that's fine. And what we do is we look at these midpoint structures, and it tells us, for example, that um, let me double check something here. Let's just double check and make sure this B accuracy data is good. Yeah, 18 Cancer, 14 Ascendant. It's only B accuracy. 18 Cancer, 14. Okay, fine. All right, let me pull up the pop-up wheel. And what we see is the Neptune is at the Saturn-Uranus midpoint. So when you read a midpoint structure, the planet at the top, it's telling us is opposition the midpoint of Sun and Saturn, and opposition the midpoint of Saturn and Uranus with a 39-minute orb. So you have the Neptune at Saturn, Uranus midpoint. Is that clear to everybody? Okay. So, and by the way, he has only B accuracy birth data. I probably shouldn't even be using it. But that's okay. We'll leave it for now. And we see the Neptune at Saturn, Uranus midpoint. So Neptune, this means you take the midpoint of Saturn and Uranus, and Neptune is opposition the midpoint of it. Saturn, Uranus, Neptune is one of the most common configurations for people who cannot live a normal, mundane life. So there you see the classic configuration of Neptune between Saturn and Uranus. Now let me check something else here. Let me just check something for a minute. Hold on a second. Okay, never mind. All right. Let me give you another example of a midpoint structure. We look at Elvis Presley, and he has Uranus, Venus, and Pluto in a T-square. So there's the Venus that we were looking at 29 Capricorn, Pluto at 25 Cancer, Uranus at 27 Aries. So it's obviously a T-square. But notice it goes 25, 27, 29. So when we go to the midpoints, Uranus is at the Venus-Pluto midpoint with a 15-minute orb. So what makes the Venus-Uranus-Pluto configuration strong is that it's reinforced by a midpoint structure that's almost exact. Okay? Venus, Uranus, Pluto is the combination for rock and roll. Nearly every single rock and roll star will have a very, very conspicuous Venus, Uranus, Pluto. I actually have not seen one exception to it yet. Although it depends on the style of rock and roll. But for this older style rock and roll, Venus, Uranus, Pluto is always involved. So there's the classic configuration, Uranus, Venus, Pluto. Does it make sense? So what happens in vibrational astrology is we have very, very, very exact rules. If there's a midpoint structure with under a half a degree orb, it is so strong that you can read it out of context of the entire chart and it will work. Let me say that again. If you have in your birth chart a midpoint structure with about a half a degree orb or less, as Elvis does. He has Uranus at Venus, Pluto, and here it's 15 minutes. You can read it out of context of the rest of the chart and it will work. So there's going to be, with Elvis Presley, high sexuality, excitability, the need for music and dance, the need for this electric, spontaneous expression of feeling is there. It does not matter what zodiac signs there are, nothing else matters. It's so strong, it just works. So you can pull up in your birth chart your midpoint structures. Here's another one with a 19-minute orb. And if you have one, it is that strong. Okay.
All right.
So Julie had.
It's a break time now.
Yeah, break time. Thank you, Chris. Oh, it is break time. Okay. So Julie mentioned she has one. So let me just finish this. We'll take our 5-minute break. That these vibrational systems, when a planet is directly at the midpoint of two other planets, it means the distance of Venus to Uranus is nearly identical to Uranus to Pluto. It is singing the same note. It's like plucking a note on a guitar or a tuning fork and another thing starts vibrating. It's an extremely strong vibrating system. But the orb must be very small. Once you get up around a degree, it's there, but it's not so strong that it's conspicuous. If the orb is under about 15 minutes, it becomes so strong that it becomes a clear theme in the person's life. So, in vibrational astrology, the chart is a wiring diagram. The exact strength of the orb tells us the exact strength of the current. And you can see whether somebody has something extremely strong or moderate or weak. We know exactly what the energy flow is. So interpretation in vibrational astrology is very, very, very simple because there's no guessing. There's no way around it. And if the interpretation is wrong, we know it's wrong. And the people in our vibrational astrology research group, we have been known to perseverate over one planetary configuration in one person's chart for weeks. So when something does not work, that's how we learn. Is everybody following me? Ready for the break? In 1 hour, you've gotten an idea of what the vibrational astrology language is. Sorry that some of you have had connection problems. It looks like those are getting fixed by downloading the app. So that's good news. We're going to take a 5-minute break. So on my clock, I've got 3 minutes after the hour. I'll see you all at 8 minutes after the hour. Take a little break, just 5 minutes, and I'll see you back here. Okay, guys.
If there's anyone that has question, you can put it in the chat. I am here to answer. Jonathan has a question. You have to enter as registered user. As guest, you have no option. I have to let you in. When you run your Adobe Connect, there's two options, guests and registered user. You have to click on registered user. You have to use that because with the recording later on, you won't be able to watch if you don't use your registered user. No one will let you in there as guest to watch the video. Yes, it will be. It is. We're recording it. You can view it a day or so, or after the conference. I will update the page, the link. We sent the link for the recording, but you're gonna have to use your ID and password. No one will let you in there as guest.
Oh, wow. That was a fast 5 minutes. Um, okay. Um, are we good? Is everybody back? According to my clock, it's already 6 minutes. Flew by. Um, okay. Hey, you guys are ready? Everybody back? Okay. So we are 1/3 of the way through our program here, our workshop, and we have achieved in the first hour what I wanted to achieve, which is to give you some of the basic ideas of how we think in vibrational astrology. In the second hour, I'm ready to dig into the specific tools and techniques. I've started introducing you to midpoint structures, and now we're going to see how the chart interpretation is done. And it takes us into this word that you've heard. You might have some fear and trepidation about it, which is harmonic charts. You've all heard the term harmonic charts. We are now going to learn what harmonic charts are, because the two basic tools in VA are midpoint structures and harmonic charts. You now know what a midpoint structure is. In VA, we're only looking at planets conjunct or opposition the midpoint of two other planets. That's all we're looking at. So let's pull up this example again just to review very quickly that Elvis Presley has Uranus. It tells me here Uranus is conjunct the Venus-Pluto midpoint. The planet at the top is the one at the midpoint. It'll tell us whether it's conjunction or opposition, and the orb. So I showed you the settings. We said you do only conjunctions and oppositions with a 1.5 degree orb. Now, where this gets interesting, you might say, is that we do this not only in the natal chart, but in harmonic charts. So these are our two basic tools. But we do not call harmonic charts harmonic charts. We call them vibrational charts. Sometimes we all slip back into calling them harmonic charts, and I may slip back into that term as well, but we try not to use the word harmonic chart. We try not to use the word harmonic at all. The reason is because the word harmonic is very confusing and complicated, and it makes you think of like harmonies and like music theory and some kind of fancy mathematics, and it's just like makes your head spin. And we're not doing any of that. All we're looking at are vibrations. So it's much simpler than that. And a vibration, let's look at one of your charts, Angela's chart. So before we started, I entered the birth date of a few of you guys. So Angela has Mars and Saturn in a semi-sextile aspect. Mars is at 28 Cancer 44, Saturn's at 28 Leo 28. It's a semi-sextile, 1/12 of a circle with a small orb. You know, it's not exactly 30 degrees, but it's close to being 30 degrees. So we call this semi-sextile a 1/12 aspect. So an aspect is a fraction of a circle. And the meaning is mostly in the denominator. Means the bottom part. And she also has Sun square Mars. Mars is at 28 Cancer, Sun is at 0 Scorpio. So we call a square a 1/4 aspect. Sun is 1/4 Mars. So we generally refer to an aspect by the fraction, because that's what an aspect is. Let me give you one more example. She has Mercury trine Jupiter with, say a 3 degree orb, 2.5 to 3 degree orb. That a trine is 1/3, and it's vibrating in thirds. And thirds, as you know, so she has, what is it, Mercury trine Jupiter? We can call it a 1/3, and this is soft and pleasant, as you know. So you already know what the 3 vibration does. So a trine is a 3 vibration. because you divided the circle into thirds. And the squares are motivating. Okay? So you already know about trines, you already know about squares, and what happens is there is an intricate, beautiful tapestry of vibrations, and sevenths, and elevenths, and thirteenths, and seventeenths, etc., are just as important as trines and squares. They are not minor aspects. So one of the basic ideas of vibrational astrology is that we live in a beautiful, intricate vibrational universe. That's the fact. And all of these vibrations are equally important. Just like the color yellow, I wouldn't go, oh, look at that yellow. That's the color that's important. Oh, we don't care about the red. That red's not an important color. Who cares about red? Yellow, that's the one that counts. We don't do that. Or we don't say, oh, I only like the note D. D is a great note. Don't play F. F isn't cool. D is the important note. No, it would sound ridiculous. Depends on what key you're in. Depends on what music you're playing. So all the different colors are different vibrations. All of the notes are different vibrations. They're all beautiful. They're all gorgeous. They all do different things. And when you start to see the vibrational system in the chart, you see into the very heart and soul of the person. You can see why they're driven to paint or whatever it is. You see the energetic system. That's a big claim, but that's what has become very, very, very clear to all of the researchers in vibrational astrology. Okay. Now, you might not like that there's this intricate vibrational universe. It makes the chart interpretation maybe too complicated. Maybe you wish there should only be trines and sextiles, and besides, you might feel your chart interpretation is just fine without all that stuff. Well, I have two things to say about that. The physicist Richard Feynman was very fond of saying, I do not get to decide what Mother Nature is. I only get to find out what she is. So we don't get to decide how astrology works, or if it works, or how it works. It is what it is. If we're lucky, we can find out how astrology works. And we will actually find out astrology does work and what it means for it to work. But we have no control over what astrology is. We only get to decide to discover how it works. And we have to be ready for surprises, and we have to be ready for things that we do not prefer. Does that make sense to everyone? And we can have our a priori assumptions and our intuitions, but we cannot be so proud of our intuition that we know, because there's no vibrational astrology with that attitude. All we can say is that we're just little ants walking around on planet Earth with the grace of God, some ability to understand something, and who knows? And, we study all of the great scientists and mystics to see what they say, but we're very, you might say, agnostic in VA. Anything's possible. And through many decades, basically half a century of working non-stop with that attitude, it has gradually become clear. Does that make sense to everyone? So this is another wildly different thing about vibrational astrology, is that a new language got developed to try to make sense of people's charts and on a direct experiential level and in the databases. Okay, so there is this vibrational system, whether we like it or not. And the vibrational chart is the big key to showing it to us. So here's how it works. Let's right click on Angela's chart, and I'll go to customize, and I'll go to aspects. By the way, I already know certain things about Angela, by the way. What I know about her, before I continue, let me tell you a few things I know about her. She's not a couch potato, and she's not completely irresponsible. And if I was going to hire somebody, I would seriously consider her if she has the qualifications. I don't know to what extent she's so dedicated and willing to do whatever needs to be done, but I know that if the house needs to be cleaned and nobody else will clean it, she'll clean it. So I know that she doesn't need the air conditioning to be perfect all the time and everything. She'll do what needs to be done. I don't know any more detail than that right now, but as I dig into the chart, it will become clear. Does everybody follow me? Now, Angela, are you there? Are you hearing what I'm saying? If you're not there, we'll switch over to somebody else. Yeah, there you are. Okay. All right. And so that makes sense, right? It might make sense for all of us. Whatever. She says it does make sense. Okay. Now, how did I interpret that? Because she has Mars and Saturn in a very tight 1/12th aspect. Mars means do. Mars is what regulates doing, the sense that you're going to achieve something. Humans have this strange idea that we're going to achieve something. I'm going to get up this morning and I'm going to mow the lawn. I'm going to study for my exam. And if I study for my exam, I will feel good afterwards. Or I'm going to go to the gym and work out because I'll feel good afterwards. We have this feeling that if we apply effort, we get something done, as if the world needs us to get something done. Well, it does need us to get something done. And Mars regulates the force for feeling like evolution will take place through effort. It's not a warrior. It doesn't want to beat anybody up. It just has this sense that there's something to achieve. It's an interesting human trait we have, isn't it? Don't we all have this? Like you feel like, oh, I want to study. Oh, I want to take this vibrational astrology workshop. It's going to cost me money and time, but it's going to be worth the effort. I'm going to put that effort out. And I bet you I'm going to feel better after I do it if it's any good. I need to find out if it's good. And Saturn, we say a lot, Saturn's the teacher, Saturn's this, Saturn's that, but those are all archetypal things that develop in our consciousness. Saturn does one thing. Saturn strips down to the bone. That's all Saturn does. It strips down to the skeleton. It strips down to something that will last past death. So what's going to last past death? Your dedication to something, your generosity of spirit, the sacrifice you made for somebody who was sick, these will last past death. Your pretty car and your pretty clothes, they don't mean a whole lot. They're Jupiterian, and they mean a lot to Jupiter. They mean nothing to Saturn. Saturn strips to the bone. If somebody has Mars Saturn, it means they want to get done what really needs to be done, even if it's not glamorous. And getting through college is not always glamorous, and you have to write papers and you have to do things. you don't always want to do, but you feel good, and as long as it's related to your real goals and you can do something real, you can fix cars, you can fix people, you'll be able to do something, then the program is worth it. So when you see Mars Saturn like that, you know the person has that in them. Does that make sense? You see how it's very, very different. I'm not saying that she's a hard worker, blah, blah, blah. I mean, vaguely I am, but um, everything's a process. Okay, now, we need to see the vibrational patterns. Right now, I only see a few basic vibrations. I already know certain things about her. I also know she has big dreams and visions. So even though she's going to clean the floor and everything, she's not going to be happy stuck in the house. Um, that ain't going to happen. That ain't going to happen. You would think she had a lot more Sagittarius in her chart, but the signs don't actually do what people think they do. But she has what you might think of as a Sagittarian spirit. I'll show you how I know that as well, that she needs room to move. Right, Angela? You're going to explore a whole bunch of stuff. Yes, exclamation point. There's almost always an exclamation point when I say something about the chart because people know that I'm not making this stuff up. You really, really feel it. And in a minute, I'll show you how I saw that. But I have not even scratched the surface yet. There's this intricate vibrational system. So what we do is if I right click on this chart wheel and I go to customize and I go to aspects, you don't need to remember all this. You're going to have the recording as well anyway. And I can look at things like look at the, where did they go? Here they are, septiles. I can look at the septiles. Oh, well, you're complicated, so you like to meditate too. Oh, wow. So she's all over the place. She's responsible, and she likes to meditate and quiet. Boy, her soul really expands when she's, things need to be nicely organized. You can have it like a garden. I don't know if you live in a big city or something, but some kind of like garden or something makes you feel joyous. Very important for your psychological health. Not too much mess. There's a mess in the house, like the pictures don't match and stuff. It's not good for your physical health. All right. Now I will tell you just totally. Now I will tell you how I see all this in a minute. But I'm seeing it in the vibrations. There's an intricate vibrational system. And sorry. So when you look at these septiles, I clicked on septiles, and it shows that Moon, Jupiter, and Saturn are in septile. There's only 3 septile aspects, 1/7, 2/7, and 3/7. So this Jupiter and Saturn must be 1/7. Just, it's got to be because, it's 51 degrees. And then this is probably 2/7, and this is probably 3/7. So you have 1/7 plus 2/7 equals 3/7. Well, I don't even really care about the numerator, but they're all connected in 7. When 3 planets are on the same vibration, it makes a theme in your life. Let me say that again. When 3 planets are connected in the same vibration, it makes a theme. Septile, we don't use these words like septile in vibrational astrology. It just means sevenths. We just say they're fractions. 1/7, This is probably 2 7 3, so they're in sevenths. Okay, and that's what I just interpreted. Now, what's amazing here, Angela can confirm, is that these are fundamental things in her life that are good for her to know about, and maybe she has figured it out, and probably she has, but sometimes people don't, and they don't make it a high enough priority. Right, Angela? I mean, this is like really important stuff that, yeah, she says, yes, figured it out. Good for you. A while ago. Good. Yeah, and you're taking this class and, pursuing all these things. Most of us are pretty aware kind of people. But when you're out there seeing clients, sometimes they get themselves very, very messed up because they don't do what their heart is telling them to do. Now, the 7 vibration is introverted. It's quiet and introverted. It listens. So when planets are in 7 vibration, planets become quiet, they become still, and they become deep. Everybody got it? And moon, as you know, is your moods, your disposition. It's actually the ancient past reflected into the present as memories and moods. So that means her moods, her disposition, is connected to Jupiter and Saturn in 7 vibration. Jupiter and Saturn are well organized. Saturn cuts the fat out of Jupiter. And so this creates a quiet, organized, it gives like a great sense of peace when, when you walk, there's an archway into a room, or there's like a little walkway, or little things like this. There's a sense of rightness, a sense of things being in the right order, of being anchored in our souls, that we become attached to them. And Angela has a very deep soulfulness like this. And so this is very, very important. And she has a gift for this. She can create nice spaces where people feel quiet and content. Reading rooms, listening rooms. It's something that she can develop as a talent. Developing those spaces the way you can maybe step outside the house into a porch or a balcony. There's a gift here that can be developed. So sometimes the people don't develop the potential, but this should be something that's utilized in her own life and will be helpful to others. Okay. Okay. So I'm seeing this just by going to this feature in the software to show me these 7 vibration aspects. But when we do the actual interpretation, we do not do it this way. We do it by looking at vibrational charts. So let me show you how vibrational charts work. So, Angela, just to make sure everything I said really connects, does any of it sound a little off or exaggerated or anything else? If it does, that's fine. She says yes, perfect. Okay, good. All right. Now, let me show you vibrational charts. Everybody ready for vibrational charts? You're going to be hearing about vibrational charts all weekend, and I'm going to show it to you. It's very, very simple. Here's how it works. Okay? All right. The way it works is as follows. Let me go back to this customize aspects septiles. What the vibrational chart does, you can create a vibrational chart for any number. I'll make it for the number 7, the 7 vibration chart. The 7 vibration chart stretches the distance between all the planets 7 times. So the Moon, Jupiter, and Saturn will turn into conjunctions in the 7 vibration chart. So think of the vibrational chart as a microscope, like you're zooming in. You're taking this chart wheel and you're going to zoom in, and the way it's going to zoom in is it's going to multiply everything by 7, so that the Moon, Jupiter, and Saturn will be conjunct. Mars and Uranus will also be conjunct. Let's do it. I'm going to go to the harmonic charts. Here it's called harmonic chart. I don't really like that term. We call it a vibrational chart, but that's the more common word for it. And I'm going to put in
That
7.
is the harmonic icon.
Yeah. So I click on
You
the
have to
harmonic
slow
chart
down
button.
and tell them that's the harmonic.
Oh, okay. Thank you. So you click on the harmonic icon, this one that says 975. These blue icons create new charts. So I'm going to click on this thing that says has 975 on it, and then I'm going to select harmonic chart, the second menu item. And then I'm going to type 7. Okay? And thank you, Miss Fay, for making that clear for everybody. So I click on OK, and there is Jupiter, Saturn, and Moon all within 10 degrees. And there is Mars and Uranus within 2 degrees. So I'm going to put 2 wheels next to each other. I'm going to go over here to the multi-wheel. I'm going to select 2 wheels. And I'm going to put Angela Natal on the left and Angela 7 on the right. Just so that you can see them next to each other. And on the right is the Moon, Jupiter, Saturn, all conjunct in the 7 vibration charts. It's the 7th harmonic chart. On the left is Angela's natal chart. Her Moon is at 24 Pisces. Her Jupiter is at 6 Cancer. Her Mars is at 28 Cancer. I cannot tell, not Mars, Saturn. I'm sorry. Moon is 24 degrees Pisces. Jupiter is 6 degrees Cancer. Saturn is 28 degrees Leo. I cannot look at that chart wheel and see that Moon is some sevenths of a circle. I believe it's 2/7, but it doesn't really matter whether it's 1/7, 2/7, or 3/7. My brain is not smart enough to know that 24 Pisces to 6 Cancer is 2/7 of a circle. But when I make a 7 vibration chart, it turns them into conjunctions. Anything that are 7ths of a circle become conjunctions. And the beautiful thing is that the closer together they are, the stronger the aspect is in the natal chart. And this may sound like an enormously huge orb, but we allow 16 degrees for conjunctions. 16 degrees. And this spreads less than 10 degrees. So that tells me it's a very solid Moon, Jupiter, Saturn. Spreads 10 degrees. It is not obsessive. It is not dominating her life. It's not like she has to do interior decorating and create meditation spaces. No, no, no. It's a 10-degree orb It just means it's a basic fundamental trait that's important. The smaller the orb, the more dominant it is in your life. So I know what the person does, I know how they do it, and I know how important it is. This is solidly there and it's important, but it's not strong enough that her life is dominated by it. Does it make sense? Did you all follow it? Let me explain it again. On the left, let's do it one more time. On the left is Angela's birth chart. Her moon is at 24 Pisces, Jupiter's at 6 Cancer, Saturn's at 28 Leo. Moon, Jupiter, Saturn. Because I'm a human being with a small brain, I am not able to tell that this is dividing this circle into 7 pieces. Imagine you have 7 people coming to a party and you have a pizza and you divide it into 7 equal pieces. Moon to Jupiter would be the size of 2 pieces. Jupiter to Saturn is 1 piece. And it's 2 sevenths and 1 seventh is 3 sevenths. The wonderful thing about a vibrational chart is it takes all the planets that are sevenths of a circle and makes them conjunct. So in the 7 vibration chart, I see Moon, Jupiter, Saturn are conjunct. It means they're in 7 vibration. And the orb tells me how strong it is. If the orb is out at 16 degrees, it's very weak. If it spreads like 12 degrees, still pretty weak. You get down to about 10 degrees, it's solid. You get down to about 6 degrees, it's very strong. You get down to a few degrees, like it's all within 2 or 3 degrees, and it becomes like a sharp, almost painful need. Okay, does it make sense? What if you have 5 planets all within 3 degrees? Well, now you're just a full-blown fanatic. I mean, you're just like nuts, man. I mean, if you have 5 planets conjunct each other in a vibrational chart within 2 or 3 degrees, you're over the top. You're just out of it. I mean, you're just so strong into that you have to make that part of your life. And we have to see what the vibration is and what the planets are. So that becomes your purpose in life. And in vibrational astrology, there's no bad or good. There are no malefics. Everything has a purpose. The more planets and the smaller the orb, the bigger it needs to be in your life. Does it make sense? You guys following me? Now, I use colorful language, and I say, you're over the top, man. You're like way out. Well, let's take Vivaldi, the composer. He's going to have 6 planets or more in a vibration that says composing. It doesn't mean Vivaldi is OCD. It doesn't mean there's anything wrong with Vivaldi. It just means that he's a bloody better composer than anybody else. Because he's got more planets more tightly configured. So it just means what's strongest in your life. Okay. All right. So does that make sense? Everybody follow me. You will see what the person's talent is, what their passion is, what their competencies are, and it will be very, very clear. So here's Vivaldi, and this is why he's such a great composer. I'll explain this in a second. What does it mean if a planet in 1 degree orb but square from each other? Okay, we'll get to all that. But let me show you how these vibrations work. Are you getting the idea? Is everybody with me? Let me review. This is so simple. It's so like stupidly simple. The only thing that makes it difficult is that it's different from anything you've learned before. But let me just do it one more time. And I apologize if it's getting redundant and you're tired of hearing it, but just one more time. We look at Angela's natal chart on the left. The moon is 2/7 of a circle from Jupiter. It's a 2/7 aspect. Jupiter is 1/7 to Saturn. Saturn is 3/7 to moon. How do I see that? I pull up a vibrational chart and it shows me that they're all conjunct. And it shows me how strong they are. So I look at the vibrational charts. And it's very simple. 7 is quiet, introverted, deep, and therefore you could call it mature. 11 is restless, can't sit still, hungry, easily dissatisfied, progressive. It's great for music. So most of the great musicians have 11 vibration. So it's not necessarily frenetic and out of control. There are things you can do to make it work, one of which is music. Now, how do I know this? It is not from theory. It is from observation. We've studied the charts of the greatest musicians, no cherry picking of data. We Google greatest musicians, we get a list. We look at every single one, so there's no cherry picking, and every single one has the configuration we expect. If somebody doesn't, then the researchers like Linda Berry and Clarissa and the rest of the researchers and myself, we start pulling our hair out, trying to figure out what it is, what's going on, and almost always we will discover a new rule that we did not understand. Everybody following me? And this is why vibrational astrology is growing and advancing very rapidly. I think that it might take another 30 or 40 years, I'm not sure, but vibrational astrology appears like it will go mainstream. Might even take close to 100 years, I don't know, when we have the research that's so easily replicable. Okay, so when you look at Vivaldi's chart, there's his birth chart. Okay, great. He's got 15 degrees Virgo rising, sun is setting, etc. I really cannot see a lot of intricate detail in this chart, but we'll go to the vibrational charts, and in the 11 vibration chart, he has Sun, sextile Neptune, sextile Venus, sextile Pluto, and also Uranus. This Uranus-Pluto is out of orb, but otherwise we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of the 6 points of this, all the sextiles are there. It's a huge sextile pattern. The strongest part is these 4 planets. You can look at how thick the line is. If the line is thick, the aspect is strong. And there's a lot of other things going on. But now, what does a sextile do? How does it behave in the 11 vibration chart? So in the vibrational chart, we do not look at just conjunctions. We look at the basic Ptolemaic aspects. We look at trines and sextiles and squares and oppositions and things like that. So the irony is that vibrational astrology becomes very, very similar to modern popular astrology, where we're just looking at basic aspects, but we're looking at them in vibrational charts. As you know, a sextile is like a trine, is smooth and harmonious. So it has the same meaning in the vibrational chart. But I'll tell you a little extra thing, which is that a 1/3 aspect, which is a trine, is smooth and harmonious, as you already know. Nothing new in vibrational astrology. But a 1/6 aspect, sextile, is smooth and harmonious in communication. Sextiles give fluidity with other people, and they actually give more fluidity than trines. Trines tend to be more stagnant. They're harmonious, however, can turn stagnant and dark. They can, not necessarily. Sextiles are less prone to that because the 6 equals 3 times 2. And so the 6 has the smoothness of 3 and the dynamism and polarity of 2. So the numbers 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, and you can keep going up, are hard aspects. They are driving and motivating. So when you cut the circle in half, you have an opposition, it's a hard aspect. You cut it in quarters, you have a square, it's a hard aspect. You can keep cutting it up, and those are all hard aspects. But what you have here with Vivaldi is a very smooth, pleasant movement of Sun, Venus, and Uranus. They're in a grand trine. Venus and Uranus is the musical combination. 11 is a musical vibration. In his 11 vibration chart, Venus is trine Uranus, and it makes a grand trine with the Sun. It's a classic musical combination. And he also has Pluto and Neptune strongly involved. So it's a classic standard thing we expect for musicians. This does not show composers. I can tell you what makes composers, but I don't want to overload you with too much detail right now. So what happens is you look at a vibrational chart and you see what planets are supporting that vibration. So going back to Angela's 7 vibration, we see she has a moon, Jupiter, Saturn. We see that she's not scattered all over the place, sort of chaotic, just the opposite. She's a pleasant person to be around. You go into her house, you feel, oh, good, this feels good.
Hey, David,
Yeah,
why
she's
don't you look at her 31st vibration chart?
okay.
That's
So
her
what we're going to,
situation.
okay. So what we do, I'll go back to her natal chart, is we look at the 5 vibration that shows how a person is playful and moving and exploratory. We look at the 7 to see the quiet. We look at 9 to see the community orientation. We look at 11 to see the restlessness, the impatience. We look at 13, which gives a desire to be involved with something special. When 13 is strong, when there are a lot of planets connected in 13 vibration, the person doesn't want to do something mediocre. They want to find something special, like some kind of special healing, maybe a special kind of astrology. Maybe vibrational astrology is a breakthrough. Maybe it's something really special. And you'll find a lot of people who go into vibrational astrology have strong 13 vibration because it promises to be something special. They have to check it out and find out if it's true. 13 is invention, discovery. It feels beyond the normal law, wants to get out beyond. 17 shows how a person has compassion. People with 17 are almost always counselors or actors. Counselors and actors over and over and over again. Sometimes writers or involved in theater in some other way. The stories of other people's lives, and so on. There's 19, 23, 29, 31. These are all important. I won't go over them all in detail right now. But they all have a quality. 31 gives a sense of mystery. People who don't need simple answers. They like to go out at night, see the stars, and go, oh my God, what the heck is going on? It's a sense of awe and wonder, and rather not have an answer, because answers tend to be overly simplified. And well, her 31 may show up in other ways, but we're not. Oh no, that's 5 vibration. Let's see her 31. Oh my God! So she has a very, as Christopher noticed, he's clicking away on his computer, and she has a very strong 31 vibration. Mercury-Neptune opposition, making sextiles to Venus, Mars, and Uranus. Well, this is this is Mercury. Let me just look at it again. 22 degrees, 22, 22, 22. Neptune, Uranus, Venus, and Mercury are all at 22 degrees. Extremely strong. Mars is nearby at 20 degrees. So extremely powerful. She also has Jupiter opposition Saturn, Pluto. Another little thing going on. So what this means is it's essentially, you might say, psychic. It's it believes in extraterrestrials or some kind of magic is going on out there that people are afraid to look at. We are in some kind of mysterious universe with technologies and communications that people haven't even imagined could be possible yet. So it's not surprising she's in an astrology class. But the sense of wonder and magic and awe and acceptance of clairvoyance or all kinds of things is extraordinarily strong. So she has to pursue a life of of openness and receptivity, we also want her to use critical thinking skills. To realize anything's possible doesn't mean it's necessarily true. So that just because something's there doesn't mean you just let the person go way off the deep end with it. But she's got that nice Moon, Jupiter, Saturn, and 7 vibration. Gives me a sense she won't go off the deep end with crazy conspiracy theories that aren't true. And she's got that quiet. The quiet's very important. So, yeah, a lot of people in this meeting will have things like this. This is why we're interested in things like astrology.
We're at 3 o'clock, David.
Okay, we're at break time. So I'm sure that makes sense, right, Angela? So totally. Okay. So are you guys? We're gonna take our second break now. We finished 2/3 of the program for this afternoon, and I think you can feel VA. One of the things we say in VA is feel it. It's not all numbers and stuff. Just feel the chart. It's a 31 vibration of awe. Feel Mercury's opposition Neptune. Uranus Neptune is the psychic combination. Uranus Neptune makes you psychic, not Pisces. Okay? So what happens is you move into the chart and you feel it. And it is mind boggling. You guys starting to feel it? You getting in the groove? A few of you sent me emails and said things like, you have VA addiction. Yeah. Okay. There's just all these vibrations out there, and we're sensing the vibrations. Don't worry about what you don't know. You're just getting into how the system works. Okay. We've got 2/3 through. I'm very, very pleased with our progress. We've made more progress than I thought I would make. Let's take another 5-minute break. Let your brain chill out a little bit. It's 2 minutes after the hour. I'll be back at about 7 minutes after the hour. Maybe give 6 or 7 minutes. Okay, guys, I'll see you in 5 minutes. Let your mind rest.
Chris, do you have Sunshine's birthplace? Thanks.
Yeah, she's born in McAlester, Oklahoma. She's a strong 23rd vibration.
Okay, we've got 9 minutes after the hour, so I think. Okay, great. I think we are ready to. Okay, all right. Faye's just giving me more birth information here. Our last hour, a little bit less. Can you close the door? Yeah, thanks. Our last hour, a little bit less than an hour. Everybody back? You guys ready for our last little bit? And then tonight at 7 o'clock is the opening, and the opening is totally awesome. Wait till you see this opening. You're gonna. Oh well, if the technology works, I think we got it working. Okay, but it's going to be totally awesome. Okay. Let me just review a few points, and then I'm going to do some super quick readings of several of your charts to demonstrate ideas. But let me just review what we've accomplished in these first 2 hours. You now know the language of vibrational astrology, and you can now follow the lectures this weekend. For example, tomorrow morning, Giselle will be talking about people with bipolar disorder. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours of research to figure out what is actually in their charts, not just some philosophy or assumptions. What is actually really going on astrologically with bipolar disorder? We're now into about our third phase of the research, and it's becoming clearer and clearer and clearer what's going on. And she'll be saying things like the 11 vibration is, especially with Jupiter and Uranus, is inclining to be unstable and out of control. Does it make sense? Does it make sense? 11 vibration. That's the one that's got the heebie-jeebies, that's got to keep moving. What if you put Jupiter and Uranus are very strong in 11 vibration? Jupiter and Uranus are rocking and rolling, man. So it's just common sense. You guys follow me? Or if she says, we found Moon and Saturn in 7 vibration, and it seems to be, they get so quiet and distant, it can become depressive. You now can follow the language. Does it make sense, guys? There's just all of these vibrations going on, beautiful, intricate vibrations. And we live in this beautiful, intricate vibrational universe. And yeah, so that's, I think you guys can now follow the idea.
Well,
And
just
yeah, go ahead.
yeah, I just wanted to say one thing, that I don't want everybody getting like wrapped up in all the absolute details now, or thinking you're having to get the details. You're being introduced to a language right now. And so just take that in. And when David describes the idea of a wiring diagram, that's exactly what this is. And just when a house is wired, they're wired with different size wires that can hold a different load, the amount of current flowing through it. And when he's showing these dynamics, what he's doing is he's showing you the patterns that hold the most load, that have the most electricity flowing through it. And so when we're looking at a seventh harmonic in that style, we see what kind of load is flowing through that person. All right? So you'll get more and more of the details as we go through the weekend of what each of these specifically means in that way. But right now, you're trying to get a feel for the overall picture of how this is working.
Beautiful, Chris. Absolutely beautiful. Yep, that's it. Don't worry about every little technical, minute detail. Um, if you get into vibrational astrology, you'll be working on that for the rest of your life, like the rest of us. Um, yeah, but you've got the idea, and it's so exciting to learn from each other. Okay. Um, yeah, I wouldn't worry about cheat sheets and all that right now. I think the main thing is, you know what happens with vibrational astrology? If you think too much, you miss it. If you start like worrying about every little meaning and everything, it's like if you try to listen to music and you say, "Oh, what note did he just sing? What did it? What interval was that?" Just chill out, bro, and listen to the music. Um, so I think the real key here is don't worry about all that stuff. It's going to fall into place by itself. You you just listen to Giselle tomorrow morning and then Clarissa and etc. And just take it in and enjoy it. You're going to have everything's recorded. You can record this. We have two fantastic teachers, Clarissa and Linda Berry, are teaching online. They are absolutely fantastic. There's so many resources, all my videos. Just enjoy it. Don't worry about dotting I's and crossing T's right now. Um, just you tend to lose the flow. Um, it'll all that will make sense of itself in time. Does it sound good, guys? I'm just saying the same thing Christopher said. Um, so let's show you how the vibrations work here. So I'm going to go through some of the chart data we've entered and give you an idea. I'm going to talk quickly to give you the feeling for it. Everybody ready? I'm just going to pull up some of your charts that I entered before uh, the program began this afternoon, and let's just see how these things work. Okay, here's Janice. Janice, are you there? And um, I'm going to go right to the midpoint structures. So I'm just going to go right to the midpoint structures, see if anything shows up. I like to pull up a pop-up wheel sometimes just to get the context. Uranus at Sun Neptune, half a degree. So Uranus at Sun Neptune, midpoint, half a degree. You can read it right off the chart. It always works. So Uranus Neptune is the psychic combination. There's only one psychic combination. It's Uranus Neptune. Uranus Neptune knocks you out of your normal nervous system and sort of throws you into some kind of astral plane and vivid imagination. The person wants excitement now, vision now, dreams now, and the important thing is to not become unstabilized through any kind of drug. Your body doesn't care whether it's called a recreational drug or a medicinal drug, and to keep awake. You have to be careful before going to sleep so you don't get nightmares and stuff. But this is the psychic combination. Um, that people who are awake, they have lucid dreaming, things like this happen. So you'll see this very often with people in astrology because they're often interested in psychic, intuitive types of things as well. Okay, now we look at this, we see Pluto at Moon Mars and Mars Saturn. I'm sorry, what is it? You hear two people talking? I don't know how. Okay. All right. Sorry about that. I'm back. Oh, two folks are talking. It has stopped. I don't know. You might be picking up something extraneous. I don't know. I'm going to continue. Pluto is at Moon Mars and Mars Saturn. So what's happening here is that she was born with a Moon Saturn conjunction, and Pluto, where's Pluto? Over here is between the Moon Saturn conjunction and Mars. So what this means, it's extremely tight, quarter of a degree, 9 minutes. So Pluto is compulsive, It's periodic. Moon Mars wants to be active, wants to be engaged. So Pluto at Moon Mars and Mars Saturn means she has to be difficult. She has to be careful in her relationships with other people when she's working with them, because when they start goofing off and lottie-dottying around, she could just take a gun to their heads or kick them in the butt or something. She just really likes to dig in. When it's time to work, it's time to work. We don't need to be sitting around the water cooler talking about the football game. So now let me show you the next level of this. We can look at the vibration of the midpoint structure. And we go to harmonic patterns listing number 8. Again, don't let all this detail overwhelm you. I'm going to just go to this listing here, number 8. Let me show you that again in case some of you want to remember. You go to listing, harmonic patterns listings, and then check number 8. And it will tell us what vibration this Pluto, Moon, Mars thing is in. It shows me right here. Pluto at Moon, Mars is a 17 vibration. And over here, it's a 19 vibration. It's got two different vibrations to it, 17 and 19. So what happens is when the midpoint structure is very tight, it's probably in a vibration. So this is good for counseling. It's good for therapy, active therapy. Could be good for things like working in a clinic or massage therapy, doing something dynamic and helpful. Okay. The features I'm showing you now are in Kepler as well as Sirius. Okay. Right. There are features in Sirius that are not in Kepler. So does any of this make sense? Extremely empathic, right. Right. Yeah, because it's 17 vibration is the empathy vibration. Let's look at it. When we look at it in the 17 vibration, it's not just Pluto, Moon, Mars, but we find out Neptune's involved. So spreading 15 degrees, we have Neptune, Mars, Moon, Pluto. And then there's some equal spreading here. Mars is in between Moon, Neptune, and Neptune, Pluto. That's, okay, so that's empathic. So what happens is if you go to the midpoint structures within the harmonic chart, you'll see that, where is it? Mars is at Moon, Neptune midpoint, Jupiter, Uranus midpoint, Neptune, Pluto midpoint. So this gets a little bit advanced, and you don't need to know this for this weekend, but what happens is we go into these vibrations in detail. There's an intricate resonating system. And now we see the extreme empathy because Mars is right between the Moon, Neptune, and the Neptune, Pluto. This is good for engagement, active counseling, being involved actively with people to create understanding. This is good also for being a like negotiator, someone to resolve differences, the ability to take control of it and get people hearing each other, especially when they're not ready to hear each other. It's very, very good for counseling and psychology, things like that. It's extremely strong. The Mercury's opposition Neptune. So this is something that could become part of her life and career. I don't know if it has or not, but it easily could have. and can be used. And, you know, it's nice to have these gifts. Using them makes us very happy. And certainly astrology would be one way to open the door to using it. Does that make sense to everyone? Does it make sense, Janice? She's on 17 vibration. Why active? Because Mars is in the middle. Mars means it's doing. It's taking action. It's not like just very relaxed. Okay, so you can see some of the critical things going on. All right. Always felt like a mom at work. Yeah, yes, you're very good to be there to resolve differences and to get people heard. Um, let's look at another chart real quickly. Let's look at Julie. And the idea here is not, I'm not really looking at this as a crash course. This to me is not a crash course. It's to expose you to the language. Course to me implies we're going to learn like if we were learning how to play piano. You're not going to learn how to play piano in 3 hours. It ain't going to happen. You're not going to learn how to do anything in 3 hours. But what you can learn in 3 hours is you can learn that there are these notes on the keyboard, and if you practice long enough, you can play cool music, and you can find out that there's things called scales and chords, and you can understand how people learn it. That's what we're achieving here. Does that make sense to everyone? We're just learning what the piano looks like and what the heck people are doing. We're learning what vibrational astrologers do, that they're not going right to archetypal meanings. They're looking at these vibrations, these things. We're just learning what a bunch of people do. And believe it or not, if you get that, everything else falls into place very, very quickly. Don't worry about too many details. Don't worry about it. You can listen to it, and every time you hear it, you'll learn more. Let's look at Kimberly. So I look at Kimberly's chart, and let's go. I've already verified the birth information before. Let's go to the midpoints. Let's pull up a pop-up wheel. And the more of these you do, you start to get the idea. Does she have any midpoint structures with a half a degree orb? Yes. Neptune is at Moon Mercury and Mercury Mars. Neptune, let's take a look at it, is up here at the top of the chart, is at Moon Mercury and Mercury Mars, because she was born with a Moon Mars conjunction almost exact. Extremely tight. And so Neptune is in between the Moon Mercury and the Mercury Mars. Well, this is a common configuration for people that study astrology, also things like tarot. This is a desire to understand, to really understand something in your heart, and to be able to share it. This combination is a tricky combination. It's not good for standard schooling, where there's so much emphasis on getting the answer, get the answer, get the answer. How did you do on your test today? Did you learn that long division? Did you get it? And a lot of the kids memorize the rules and they do the long division. They haven't the vaguest idea what they're doing. They just know that they were supposed to put this here and put this there. And this is not geared for that. This is trying to feel the understanding, to get the intuition for it, and just being able to solve the problem without feeling and sensing it makes no sense to this pattern. So this can go in a lot of different directions depending on the person's upbringing. Our modern education system is not very good at this overall. Oh, it can be a little bit tricky, and hopefully she got the right people who inspire the understanding. Because what's happening here is Neptune is what feels magical. And the moon Mercury, to understand intuitively the ideas, and the Mercury Mars, it's the intuition. You know, a lot of mathematics is psychic. A lot of mathematics is just pure intuition. There's no logic at all to it. They never tell you this in school. They make it sound like it's a bunch of computer nerdy calculation stuff. Some of it is, but a lot of it is just like like a psychic intuition. They don't tell you this. And poor kids like this are told a lie about learning. It's great if you don't have this combination, then you can just learn those rules and become an engineer and everything's fine. Okay, does it make sense? You guys following me? So, anyway,
David,
that's just
one,
another example.
one thing that might help is you have given the VA definition of Venus, maybe going over a few more of the planets and giving them the VA definition might help and give them kind of a little bit more of a background and kind of where you're going with everything.
Yeah, great, Chris. Great idea. You're right. So let me give you an idea of the planets. We're told that Neptune is psychic and intuitive and all this. It's actually not. Um, there's a truth to what we say about Neptune. Neptune is about the magic, feeling the magic. So in astrology, we got that right. It's about feeling the magic. But you know where the magic usually is? It's usually in things like sports. People go to the stadium and scream their heads off and go crazy because it's a magical experience. Now you might think, well, no, sports is stupid. It's just a bunch of people going nowhere. That's because you have no Neptune. A lot of people in astrology have strong Saturn Neptune, and the only kind of Neptune they can do is like Mother Teresa or something. It has to be some deep, profound kind of Neptune. But Neptune is usually just the magic of being alive, the magic of the contest, the magic of the money. My God, imagine what you could do with this money. It would just be so totally awesome. So it's what feels like magic. Okay? Um, and so that's what often happens. So you'll find with astrologers, like my own chart, I have a very, very strong Saturn Neptune, and Saturn Neptune means like the real Neptune. So anyway, Neptune is what we live for. It's why we get up in the morning, because we're going to make money, or we're going to see that cute guy, or there's transcendence built into our daily experience of life. Okay, does everybody follow me? But it's not all about angels and psychic. It's the magic that a person experiences, feels like to die for. Okay, so Mercury is very straightforward. Mercury associates ideas. It makes connections. Our interpretation of Mercury is already more of a process, connecting, making associations. I already mentioned Mars. Mars has this sense it's going to achieve something. I mentioned Saturn. Saturn tries to do something that lasts past death, something that will be fundamental, important, and not fade away tomorrow. It eliminates fat. It eliminates extraneous things. Mercury Saturn is often a scientist because Saturn tries to figure out what the real connections are. So for example, in my birth chart, Mercury is square Saturn, half a degree. So I do computer programming analysis and try to figure out what variables really connected to what. It's typical Mercury Saturn. Saturn is cutting away anything extraneous and irrelevant to find out what's at the heart of things. Venus, Saturn are artists because Venus is beauty. Saturn finds out how to get the real beauty. They're sculptors, they're painters, they're people who know how to get to the essential beauty. It's also what you get like Mercury, Venus, Saturn are people like editors, website developers, because they bring out what's fundamental and important. So Saturn is finding the essential and removing the irrelevant. Jupiter's making things big. That's all Jupiter does. It's like a balloon. It blows things up. It just bigger is better. Without Jupiter, there's no growth. Without Jupiter, we would all be doing the same thing our ancestors were doing 5,000 years ago. Jupiter is growth. It's becoming bigger, participating in a larger world. And everything grows out of that. You'll notice I have a Mars square Jupiter with a half a degree orb. If you have an aspect in your natal chart with a half a degree orb or smaller, it's strong. We do not interpret aspects with 3 and 4 degree orbs in the natal chart. They have to be very, very strong. Well, Mars Jupiter is entrepreneurial, always looking at the next rainbow. It's seeking big. So the interpretations are very simple. Now the Sun and Moon are very interesting. Well, let me mention Pluto. Pluto is a compulsion from past lives. You can think of it that way. It's something that grips you in an irrational and obsessive way, and it only does it periodically because otherwise you burn out. The Sun and Moon, curious thing is that the Sun is over 99% of the mass of the solar system. All of our lives depend on it. In life, it tremendously dominates over everything. But in the astrology chart, it's only just one object and does not dominate 99% of the chart. And it took me decades to figure it out. But what's happening is that the Sun anchors us to the current moment in time. Without the Sun, we are not anchored to a timeline. Our consciousness would just drift in some kind of amorphous cosmic level. Everybody on planet Earth at this moment, doesn't matter if they're in Tokyo or anywhere else, or Chicago, we're all anchored to the same moment in time. And there are different theories about time, and there are ideas of, there could be multiple time, whatever. But that's not relevant to our reality. Our reality is that every one of us, as long as we're reasonably functional, is bound to a timeline. And the Sun binds us to the timeline. Without the Sun, there's no consciousness, there's no existence, there's no awareness. It is the light of the day. There's nothing esoteric or hidden or complicated about the Sun. It brings things to the timeline. It makes them present. It's extremely important for career. Anytime the Sun is involved, it tends to affect career because it's where your attention is. Does it make sense? You guys following me? And without the Moon, our connection to the timeline would disappear and we wouldn't remember anything. And so the Moon is a memory bank, and it retains what happened in the past. And it has this magical ability to reflect it back to the Sun so we remember things. So the Sun and Moon regulate time. The other planets regulate specific drives or urges or needs, but the Sun and Moon regulate time itself. and they have a very sensitive blending, so we're anchored to the current moment, but then it fades away, gets stored in memory, and can be brought back. And so the memory bank of the moon is invested with all of the feeling, all of the fine nuances, all of the richness of textures and moods are all in the moon. Our disposition is the habit of how we've responded over time. Oh, I missed Uranus. Uranus is like the sun on steroids. Uranus connects us to the current instant of time with no past and no future. It's improvisation, it's being in the moment, it's being fully charged and electrified with no care for the past or the future. Let me give you an example of an interpretation I gave to a group about Uranus. I was giving a lecture on the meanings of the planets in Australia to the whole auditorium, several hundred people there. And a guy raised his hand, because I was talking about Uranus, and he said that he was born with Uranus conjunct his fourth house cusp. Let me just go to somebody else here. He was born with Uranus conjunct the fourth house cusp. His son and daughter, both, were also born with Uranus conjunct the fourth house cusp. What does it mean? And I said to him, probably nothing, because in the kind of astrology I do, it would have to be within about a degree orb. If it's out 4 or 5 degrees, it doesn't mean a whole lot. So probably nothing. And he said, they all have Uranus conjunct the fourth house cusp with less than a 1 degree orb. Almost exact for all three of them. What does it mean? You ready for this interpretation? You'll never guess in a million years what I said. Your only hope for guessing is that Uranus keeps us tied to this instant with no care for the past or the future. So I said to him that I don't know how old the kids are. He said they're teenagers. I said, okay. Well, the way that you would handle this well in your house is that all three of you would engage in something extremely spontaneous, where it does not matter what happened a minute ago or what happens a minute in the future. I said a good example would be if you had table tennis or ping pong. I said, I don't know what you call it in Australia, table tennis or ping pong. And you had like a ping pong table and all of you played ping pong. Would be a really good thing to do. Or maybe you guys would all play drums or something. You need to do something where you're just responding in the moment in some kind of way like that. Does it make sense? Do you follow the logic of it? Everybody hears me, right? Because I'm not seeing. Okay, right.
Yeah.
Okay. So,
David, why don't you try some pairs? Like I noticed in Janice's chart,
okay,
she has a,
hold on. Let me tell you the end of the story.
okay.
So what he said is they have a ping pong table in the basement. They play ping pong all the time. The two kids, one is a boy, one is a girl, are both drummers. And he plays piano, and they both play drums, and he plays piano. He said this is their most common activities. Now, people say, well, David's psychic. There's no way you could know this stuff. But do you see how, if you interpret the planets literally, with what they actually do, not some image, not a bunch of, oh, Uranus is astrology, it's electricity, maybe they're all electricians. Just say what the energy does and think of an image. And it will be true. Okay. Does it make sense to everybody? So this is how we think differently in VA, is we're focusing on what the planet is actually doing, what the zodiac sign is doing, and all of the usual associations are kind of true. It is kind of true that Uranus is rebellious. But it's only rebellious if you don't let it be spontaneous. It doesn't have to be rebellious. It leads to invention. Well, sure. I mean, if you're awake to the moment, it's a good chance you'll invent something. But more likely you won't. You're just going to be in the moment. Okay. Yes, and there is a rhythm. Very good, Jacqueline. Another thing about Uranus is on the wavelength. There's always rhythm with Uranus because you're on the wavelength. It's like you're on the light wave, you're on the sound wave, you're on the cosmic wave, you're on the astrological wave, and you just ride the wave. Uranus is dangerous because it doesn't care about the past or future. Okay, so that's some background to the planets. Yeah, I can go into different combinations. Let's pull up one of your charts.
Janice,
Let's see.
yeah, Janice had a Saturn moon conjunct really tight.
Who's that?
Janice.
Okay, let's do this quickly. She's got a Moon-Saturn conjunction really tight. Now, conjunctions are almost impossible to interpret by themselves. In fact, any tight aspect depends on the vibrational context. So it's very difficult to accurately interpret. Let me give you an example. This is a classic example we use in our beginning classes. I have Mercury in Taurus square Saturn. So right, I'm a computer analyst, all this sort of stuff. Where the heck does all this creativity come from? How the heck is this guy inventing new astrological languages and the geometry of the heavens and how Fibonacci numbers and spin and all this stuff come together? Where the heck is that? Doesn't sound like Mercury stuck in Taurus, stuck in the mud, square Saturn and a fixed sign. Where does it come from? Well, because the square is exact, it will pick up other planets. And people that have a lot of organic flow, who just seem to come up with stuff, like everybody else is thinking, oh, well, maybe this and this, and it just flows, is typically 5 vibration. So probably my Mercury Saturn will tie up with something in 5 vibration. So when we go to the 5 vibration chart, we find out that Mercury and Saturn are still square. In fact, it tells me they're 1/4 in the natal chart, and they make a T-square to the Sun. So this means that all of this analysis, to really understand it, you have to look at the context of it with other planets. And so essentially I'm a Sun, Mercury, Saturn person, also a Sun, Mercury, Jupiter. So there's a Sun, Mercury, Saturn and a Sun, Mercury, Jupiter. They're both symmetrical patterns, which makes them strong, and they're very, very tight. And what this does is the Sun, Mercury, Saturn makes for fluidity and creative problem solving. And then there's a Sun, Mercury, Jupiter, which means my brain is all over the place, exploring a zillion things and trying to connect them all because it's Jupiter. And you put it all together, and that's where a lot of vibrational astrology, in all of its incredible complexity, which we have hardly even, there's just a lot to it. It goes on forever. It's where it comes from. Does that make sense to everybody? So it's the context of these configurations of planets. So if I go back to Janus and I look at the Moon Saturn means withdrawal. It means leave me alone. It means I want to be by myself. It means I need to collect my feelings. I can't go to all these parties and stuff. But exactly how it functions will depend on the context. And there are dashed lines here connecting Venus, Saturn, and Neptune. These are hard aspects, and in the 8 vibration chart, they'll become clearer. But yeah, there is some kind of withdrawal, but exactly how it functions and how it works, we would have to look at the vibrational charts and see.
And this is what vibrational astrology is about. It's about building and building. You're looking at the layers. And so what David is doing is just showing, breaking down the planets. That's a part of it. But then how do they come together? What is the dynamic there? What is the vibration where they really meet and are strong? All these are the layers that he's been going through today and that you'll be hearing all throughout the weekend to be able to really pinpoint how that energy will express and manifest, not just in a general way or not just in an archetypal way or larger story, but getting down to the very specifics of things.
Yeah, beautifully stated, Christopher. Exactly right. So what happens in vibrational astrology is we see the specific wiring diagram and the specific ways it develops. Let's look at Tina's chart for a minute and see what we see here. I've also got birth data Faye wrote down for 3 or 4 more people. Probably won't get to it, but let's take a quick look at 1 or 2. Again, I'm just going to go to midpoints. And I'm going to pull up a pop-up wheel. It's not needed, but just to get a visualization. Mars at Moon Saturn, 5 minutes. Whoa. Moon at Venus Saturn, 4 minutes. Neptune at Saturn Pluto, 5 minutes. Well, when people have patterns like this that are so strong, there's very specific things that need to happen or life doesn't work right for them. So Moon at Venus Saturn, Mars at Moon Saturn. I'm going to find out what vibration these guys are in. Let's see, these both involve Moon Saturn. Mars is at Moon Saturn, and Moon is at Venus Saturn. So there's a Moon Saturn thing going on. Well, anyway, let's look at the harmonic patterns listing number 8 to see what vibe they're in, because when the orb is so small, it means there's going to be usually a very clear vibration. So I go down this list and I see the Moon at Venus Saturn, and I see what orb. It's in a lot of vibrations with a small orb. This one's a little complicated. It's got some 13 times 4 vibration. 53, we don't even know what that means yet. 35. Let's look at the other one. Mars at Moon Saturn. Let's see which ones have the smallest orbs. 13 times 8. So she's got 13 and 35 in both of them. So Mars at Moon Saturn and Moon at Venus Saturn. Oh, Tina's need for sincerity is extreme. It's extreme. You know, if you're going to play games with her, like say, like when you're a teenager and you have all these like cliques and stuff, and they say, "Oh, I'll see you at the party," and then they don't show up. Oh, that's not going to last very long with her. This is just a bunch of baloney. There's no soul connection. Or also, she's in high school and dating, and the guy's really cute, but he's a little bit of a jerk. That's not going to work. There's some piercing need here for honesty, emotional honesty, and to step outside the box. to do something, like with this pandemic. The people who do something about it, the doctors, nurses, they're the heroes. Um, so she needs to align herself with some kind of activity and way of life that's all about a kind of brutal honesty for something bigger than us. Um,
Sorry,
let's see what
I
it
have
looks.
to interrupt. I forgot.
Yeah,
I forgot to ask you to show them how to add the natal fractions in the middle. Just quick,
oh yeah,
please.
yeah. I'll do that quickly. So anyway, Warren, you better be true down to the core. Warren and Tina are boyfriend, girlfriend, or something like that. Um, and she's really got to pursue this. It's very, very simple. Saturn's very simple. You just don't lie. You just don't play games. And if you make a mistake, you say, I made a mistake. There's some kind of spiritual force here. Here's the moon, Venus, Saturn, the Mars of moon, Saturn. Um, to just be honest. And this can also connect you to the afterlife, because the connection made will go way past death. Um, and your taste in arts and music is very, very important. Finding people that are really great musicians, great artists. How did they capture that light on that canvas? The sincerity of the statement, and finding genius.
We'll move on to different charts so we can do the rest.
Yeah.
It's about 5 minutes left. We can have a
Okay.
little bit of overtime, but let's move.
Okay. Okay. So we're going to right click, go to customize. Um, let me tell you what Faye was referring to before. In this chart wheel, it tells you what the aspect is in the natal chart. And that's a feature in the aspects. I don't need to show it to you right now. You can learn about it later. But you'll see all these fractions. This is in the vibrational chart. It'll tell you what aspect it is in the natal chart. It's very advanced. Don't worry about it. Okay. How about if I enter a few more?
I will show it to you guys.
Yeah, during the break time, we can have discussions. We're going to have 3 hour break time. Christopher and Faye will come in and out. I may come in and out. And, you can ask questions, have discussions, things like that. So, yeah, Faye can show you how you select this stuff, or Christopher, or anything like that. But let's just pull up a few real quickly. Let's see here. I've got Maria. So Maria, January 7, 1966. I'm just going to do these ultra fast. 5:37 a.m. in Manila. I didn't know that you were. Okay. Okay. So Maria, did I enter this right? If you're there, January 7, 1966, 5:37 a.m. Manila, Philippines. Okay. Okay, cool. All right. So let's do the same kind of thing. I'm going to go to midpoints. I'm going to see what kind of midpoints there are. This is 43. Nothing strong here. So that's not interesting. So I'm going to go with the 8 harmonic chart, 5, 7, 9, 11, and 13. The 8 vibration chart tells us the basic drive of the person. Moon Uranus, she's spontaneous. She likes to laugh. She likes to giggle. She likes to go out with friends. She doesn't, hopefully her husband isn't too boring. Otherwise, I don't know how he made it this far. um, Sun, Jupiter. Now, I know Maria, by the way. We're friends. And I can see this moon Uranus. She's just fun. She don't have to say anything. She's just fun. She's also super smart, but that's not part of this. And it's Sun Jupiter. That there's things to do. There's a sense of growth. There's a sense of, she engages people. She brings people into a large circle. She lives in New York City, I believe. So yeah, that's you just get some basic ideas here. Oh, Mercury Venus, they're smart. So Mercury Venus makes people smart. Um, so she's got a conjunction. We would look at the details to find out what's going on. Mercury Venus gives verbal intelligence, gives intelligence for most things. It increases the IQ. It gives sensitivity to things. Um, Remember, I told you at the beginning, Venus is not purely only emotional, and it integrates those two inner planets. It's very powerful. Most of you will have some kind of strong 11 vibration because vibrational astrology attracts that. Also 13 vibrations common, and we see some big configurations here. Just real quickly, let's pull up, um, so Lynn, June 1954, 2:58 p.m. So Lynn, are you there? Providence, Rhode Island. So it makes sense, Maria. But I mean, I know you enough to know that it makes sense. Um, okay. And okay, does it have to be Uranus? No. I'll have to get to that during the break. So Lynn, we have, if I entered this right, June 19, 1954, 2:58 p.m., Providence, Rhode Island. Again, we can go right to the midpoint structures. See if there's anything under a half a degree. Moon at Uranus, Pluto is the only really tight one. So that means we have somebody who's spontaneous. Moon, Uranus, Pluto. They just, boom. There's like a sudden um, bounciness. Like, there's a vibrancy there. So is this Lynn Hyde? I'm not sure what Lynn. Oh no, it's Lynn Rigney Barole. Are you there? Okay, doesn't seem like she's quite connecting. Let's. Oh, so Merriman Castles that's you, Lynn, right? Are your Merriman Castles is also Lynn? So the Moon, Uranus, Pluto. Um,
It is 4 o'clock.
No, sorry, it's a different person. It's a different person.
all right, let's go in here and find out who's here. Um, Sunshine, you're here. I think I saw you typing before. Sunshine, let's look at yours. Okay, let's want to do somebody who's here so we can get a little bit of feedback. October 30, 1979, 6:43 a.m. McAllister. How do you spell McAllister? Oklahoma.
McAllister.
McAllis. MCAL.
Ester.
Okay. Okay, I'll narrow down to. There it is. If I narrow down to Oklahoma, I can find it. Little nice feature there. Okay, Sunshine. If I entered that correctly, 5 Scorpio rising, 10:30, 6:43 a.m. So I'll just show you how you can just quickly tell the person about themselves. We'll go to the midpoints because these symmetrical patterns are so powerful. Sun at Venus, Pluto, passionate person, very, very passionate. She pours her heart into what she does. She's a spiritual seeker. So Saturn, Neptune means a spiritual seeker. It means she's probably rejected most standard religious things.
She's a strong 23rd or vibration.
Okay, we can look at that as well. But this is a person who, good chance she doesn't wear makeup, stuff like that. She's passionate, direct, looking for real magic in her life. Um, let's see if we can get more specific. And I mentioned before that most of us who do things like astrology are Saturn Neptune people. We don't like sports. We don't like all this trivial stuff. We want the real deal. Um, I'm not saying she doesn't like sports, but it's a tendency to just, it's common to um, just seek things that are of real importance. You know, we like Mother Teresa and Martin Luther King. We're not too much into pop stars. Sun at Saturn Neptune wipes away glamour completely, and it actually goes overboard, and then the person tends to not have fun with anything unless it's some deep spiritual, meaningful thing. Sometimes it's good to lighten up with Saturn Neptune, at least when you're with other people. So we can see here that she's a powerhouse. Let me tell you about this. The 8 vibration chart is extremely important. We're going to have to stop. We're running over time. So let me just say this last thing. The 8 vibration chart is very fundamental, and it's the driving force, and she has a Mars-Uranus conjunction, trine a Jupiter-Pluto conjunction, and Venus is involved. So this is somebody who wants to move things, shake things, achieve things, and usually is successful in life, um, just through the sheer activity level. So,
Yeah, she's also one that isn't really going to be that concerned with what other people think or feel the need to have other people agreeing with her. She can do it on. She can just
right.
drive.
No, this is kick butt, knock it out. Let's
Yep.
get this rolling.
Yep.
Let's start this restaurant. We got the investment money. Let's do it. We can position it right here on the street. We get people eating good food. Let's rock this thing, man. Um, so she can just rock the joint and get things moving. Um, Mars, Uranus, Jupiter, Pluto. The 8 vibration chart is the very fundamental moving thing. She doesn't have to wait for a big committee to decide.
No.
And you'll make mistakes. People with these things will make mistakes. They will lose money. They will have some failures, but um,
It won't stop them.
it won't stop them, and eventually they succeed.
Yeah.
Eventually they succeed. So, she needs to be in her element. Sometimes people are not in their element. She could have had childhood trauma. Any number of things could happen that block energy that we don't know exactly what the person's doing with it, but that's how she's built. That's what she's designed to do. So, yeah, she's a powerhouse kind of person.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. We need to
Okay.
bring this
So,
one in.
all right. So, I think we are ready to stop here. I think the plan is that Christopher, Faye, and I will come in and out over the next 3 hours, see what you guys have anything you want to discuss or check out. At 7 o'clock, slightly under 3 hours, the opening begins. The opening is a blast. It's going to be fun and happy. And yeah. So, Chris, anything else you want to say to wrap up?
No, I just hope everybody had a good time. It was a nice, I think, introduction to vibrational astrology. It should give you a little more of a feel. And again, as the weekend goes on, it's going to be deeper and deeper. We're going to get into more exacting elements of it. But at least this should give you a good taste and feel for kind of the approach that's being taken here. So I hope everyone enjoyed it. We'll be, again, starting promptly at 7 o'clock tonight. And David will be giving
It's a
a
different room. Yeah. You have to go to a different room, the main conference room.
Yes, we'll be at the main conference room. And if you
Okay,
have
you
not
have to
downloaded
also
the
stop
app,
the recording.
download the app.
Stop the recording, sweetheart.
All right. Hold on one second. Let me stop the recording and let's repeat